The U.S. military had a problem in World War II. Enemy bombers were attacking at night when American fighters couldn't see them. The solution came from converted bombers, armed British fighters, and desperate experiments that turned day fighters into night hunters. This video breaks down every important night fighter the United States put in the skies during World War II. Let's begin with early stopgap solutions, the makeshift night fighters. Douglas P-70 Havoc. When Japanese bombers started attacking American bases under darkness in 1942, the U.S. had no aircraft to stop them. Engineers grabbed the A-20 Havoc light bomber and stuffed British radar into its nose, creating America's first night fighter that could find targets in pitch black. 4 20mm cannons bolted under the belly gave it punch to rip apart enemy bombers. P-70 squadrons protected Pacific bases in 1942 and 1943, but the plane had serious problems. All that radar equipment made it heavy and slow, often arriving too late to catch faster enemy bombers. Lockheed PV-1 Ventura. The Navy's patrol bomber became a surprisingly effective night fighter in Marine Corps hands. Engineers ripped out the glass nose and installed radar equipment in machine guns. What made the Ventura special was endurance. It could circle over bases like Guadalcanal for 6 or 7 hours, waiting for Japanese bombers to appear on radar. Marine pilots loved its sturdy airframe that could take heavy damage and keep flying. The downside was speed. Once radar spotted an enemy, pilots had one shot to attack before the target outran them into the night. Curtiss P-60 Black Widow prototype attempts. Before the famous Black Widow flew, Curtiss tried building America's first real night fighter and failed completely. The P-60 became a disaster of bad decisions and constant changes. Curtiss kept switching engines and redesigning the fuselage. They built several prototypes, each different from the last. None worked properly. By the time Curtiss got the design somewhat working, Northrop had already built the superior P-61 Black Widow. Only a few P-60s were completed, and none went to combat. Bristol Beaufighter Mark 1F. America entered World War II without a single effective night fighter. Britain saved the day by lending dozens of Beaufighters, combat-proven aircraft that had been shooting down German bombers over England since 1940. The Beaufighter was a beast, with 2 powerful engines, thick armor, and devastating firepower. 4 20mm cannons and 6 machine guns could destroy a bomber in seconds. British radar operators came with the aircraft, teaching American crews how to find targets in complete darkness. American squadrons flew Beaufighters in North Africa and the Mediterranean, scoring their first night kills over Tunisia in 1943. The heavy fighter swung violently during takeoff, causing several crashes, but once airborne, it was deadly. Bristol Beaufighter Mark 6F. Britain sent improved Beaufighters as the war progressed. The Mark 6F had more powerful engines for better high-altitude performance, crucial for catching German bombers over Italy. This version featured improved radar displays and red cockpit lighting that preserved night vision instead of blinding pilots. American squadrons flew it during the Italian campaign, defending the Anzio beachhead from German night raids. What made this version special was flexibility. During daylight, crews loaded it with bombs and rockets for ground attack. After sunset, they removed the bombs and hunted enemy aircraft. Though American pilots eventually switched to U.S.-built night fighters, many considered the Beaufighter the best teacher they ever had for killing in the dark. Next on the list is purpose-built night fighters. Northrop P-61 Black Widow. America finally got serious about night fighting and created the Black Widow, the first aircraft designed from scratch to hunt in darkness. This twin-engine monster looked like science fiction, with its twin tail booms, enormous wings, and rotating turret on top. It packed the best radar America could build, the SCR-720, which detected enemy aircraft from 4 miles away in total blackness. 3 crew members operated it. The pilot flew and fired forward guns, the radar operator tracked targets, and the gunner controlled the remote turret. 4 20mm cannons under the belly could obliterate a bomber in seconds. The Black Widow entered combat in Europe and the Pacific in 1944. Japanese pilots called it the flying tank because its heavy armor made it nearly impossible to shoot down. P-61A Black Widow. The first production Black Widow reached combat squadrons in May 1944, just in time for D-Day. Early models had teething problems with the dorsal turret, creating turbulence that shook the aircraft violently at high speeds. Engineers on several P-61As simply removed the turret to solve the problem. Despite this issue, the P-61A proved devastatingly effective. Black Widow squadrons in Europe shot down V-1 buzz bombs attacking London and hunted German night fighters. In the Pacific, they intercepted Japanese bombers and flew long-range intruder missions deep into enemy territory. One famous P-61A named Midnight Mickey scored 7 confirmed kills. The aircraft could carry external fuel tanks for missions lasting 6 or 7 hours, far longer than any other fighter. P-61B Black Widow. Northrop fixed the problems and created the definitive Black Widow. The P-61B solved the turret turbulence issue with improved aerodynamics, and later models put the turret back on top with full defensive firepower. This version featured more powerful engines, putting out 2,800 horsepower each, making the already fast Black Widow even faster. Northrop added underwing hardpoints for bombs or fuel tanks, turning the night fighter into a deadly ground attack aircraft during daylight. P-61B squadrons dominated night skies over Europe in the war's final year, shooting down German jets attempting night takeoffs and destroying trains under cover of darkness. In the Pacific, Black Widows hunted Japanese aircraft attacking B-29 bases in the Marianas. Over 450 P-61Bs were built, making it the most common Black Widow variant. P-61C Black Widow. The final and fastest Black Widow came too late to see significant combat. The P-61C featured turbocharged engines, boosting top speed to over 430 miles per hour and pushing its ceiling above 40,000 feet. This high-altitude performance was designed to catch German jets and high-flying reconnaissance aircraft operating above the reach of earlier Black Widows. Only 41 P-61Cs were completed before Japan surrendered. A handful reached operational squadrons in the final weeks, but arrived too late to prove themselves. Pilots who flew the C model praised its speed and climbing ability, calling it the best-performing Black Widow ever built. After the war, several P-61Cs served with Air Defense Command, protecting American cities during the early Cold War before jet fighters replaced them. Continuing with Navy carrier-based night fighters. Grumman F6F Hellcat. The Navy had a unique problem that the Army Air Forces didn't face. Night fighters needed to operate from aircraft carriers, landing on a pitching deck in total darkness while low on fuel. The solution came from modifying America's most successful carrier fighter. Grumman took the proven F6F and installed an APS-4 radar pod under the right wing. 2 radar-equipped Hellcats flew with every carrier air group, ready to launch when Japanese bombers appeared on radar. The F6F Hellcat scored its first night kill in November 1943 when Lieutenant Commander Edward O'Hare shot down a Japanese bomber threatening his carrier. Night Hellcat pilots became elite specialists, landing on carriers in pitch blackness using only a few dim lights as reference points.
Grumman F6F Hellcat. Grumman improved the Night Hellcat with better radar and enhanced engines. The F6F featured the upgraded APS-6 radar with improved range and reliability, crucial for detecting low-flying Japanese aircraft. This version had better cockpit lighting with red instruments that preserved night vision. The F6F arrived just as Japan launched desperate kamikaze attacks. Night-flying kamikazes proved especially dangerous because ships couldn't see them coming. Navy night fighters became the first line of defense, intercepting suicide planes in darkness before they reached the carriers. One pilot, Lieutenant Commander William Henry, shot down 6 Japanese aircraft in a single night mission. Over 1,400 Night Hellcats were built, serving on every carrier in the Pacific. Vought F4U-2 Corsair. The bent-wing Corsair became even deadlier at night. Vought converted standard F4U-1 Corsairs by removing the right inboard gun and installing an APS-4 radar unit on the wing. Only 34 F4U-2s were built, making them rare, but they proved incredibly effective in Marine squadrons operating from island bases. The Corsair's long range meant it could patrol far from base, intercepting Japanese bombers before they reached American positions. Marine squadrons flew the F4U-2 during the Solomons campaign, protecting Guadalcanal from nocturnal raids. Landing the Corsair at night was notoriously difficult because the long nose blocked forward view, forcing curved approach patterns. Several pilots died in landing accidents, but those who mastered it swore the F4U-2 was the finest night fighter in the Pacific. Vought F4U-5N Corsair. Vought perfected the night-fighting Corsair with the F4U-5N, though it arrived too late for World War II. This version featured a more powerful engine with a two-stage supercharger and exceptional performance at all altitudes. 4 20mm cannons replaced the machine guns for heavier firepower. The cockpit was completely redesigned for night operations, with all red lighting and improved instrument layout. Though it missed World War II, the F4U-5N served with distinction in Korea, hunting communist supply trucks and trains, moving under cover of darkness, and destroying hundreds of vehicles. Grumman F6F Tigercat. The Navy wanted a twin-engine carrier fighter with speed to catch anything and destroy it instantly. Grumman delivered the Tigercat with 2 massive engines, giving it over 460 miles per hour. 4 20mm cannons and 4 50-caliber machine guns made it the most heavily armed single-seat fighter in the world. The F7F2N night fighter version added radar in the nose and a second crew member to operate it. The Tigercat was designed for new Midway-class carriers, but the war ended before these deployed. Most Tigercats went to Marine land-based squadrons instead. The aircraft could climb to 20,000 feet in just over 6 minutes, a remarkable rate that impressed everyone who flew it. F7F3N Tigercat. Grumman refined the Tigercat with the F7F3N variant, stretching the fuselage for improved stability and adding more fuel capacity. The radar was upgraded to the latest APS-19 system with greater range and reliability. The F7F3N arrived too late for World War II, but served extensively in Korea, where Marine night fighter squadrons used it to dominate night skies. Communist forces learned to stop moving during the day and switched to night operations. The Tigercat made them pay. Marine pilots hunted convoys along Korean roads, using radar to find targets and heavy cannons to destroy them. One pilot described firing the 4 20mm cannons as like turning on 4 fire hoses. The Tigercat remained in service until 1954, proof that Grumman had built something truly special. Next on the list is radar-equipped day fighter conversions. Lockheed P-38M Night Lightning. Lockheed took America's iconic twin-boom fighter and transformed it into a capable night hunter. The P-38M was created by mounting an APS-4 radar pod under the nose and adding a second seat behind the pilot for a radar operator. 75 P-38Ls were converted into Night Lightnings in early 1945, arriving in the Pacific just as the war entered its final months. The Lightning's twin-beam design made it perfect for night operations because losing one engine didn't mean certain death. The P-38M retained all 4 50-caliber machine guns and single 20mm cannon and could reach 420 miles per hour, making it one of the fastest night fighters in the Pacific. Several units scored kills against Japanese bombers over Japan in summer 1945. North American P-51D Mustang experimental radar variants. The Army Air Forces experimented with turning the legendary Mustang into a night fighter, but results were mixed. Engineers mounted British radar equipment in a pod under the fuselage of several P-51Ds. The problem was space. The Mustang's sleek fuselage had no room for a second crew member, forcing the pilot to fly and operate radar simultaneously. This proved nearly impossible in combat. The radar pod also created significant drag, reducing the Mustang's famous speed and range. Only a handful were built for limited testing in Europe during the war's final months. No combat kills were ever confirmed. The experiment proved not every great day fighter could become a great night fighter. Republic P-47 Thunderbolt Night Intruder Trials. The massive Thunderbolt seemed natural for night operations with its rugged construction and heavy armament. The Army tested several P-47s with radar for night intruder missions, attacking German airfields and supply lines after dark. Unlike true night fighters hunting aircraft, these Thunderbolts focused on ground targets. Pilots would patrol German territory in darkness, using radar to navigate and identify trains, vehicle convoys, and airfields. 850 caliber machine guns gave tremendous destructive power. The trials showed promise, but the program never advanced beyond experimental status. The P-61 Black Widow proved far superior for dedicated night fighting, and standard P-47s could already attack during twilight without special equipment. De Havilland Mosquito NF Mark 17. Britain's legendary Mosquito joined American squadrons in Europe during the war's final year. Built almost entirely of wood, the Mosquito was light, fast, and nearly invisible to German radar. Powered by two Rolls-Royce Merlin engines, it could reach speeds over 400 miles per hour while carrying sophisticated British radar. The Mark 17 featured improved high-altitude performance and upgraded radar displays. American crews who transitioned from P-61 Black Widows were amazed by the Mosquito's speed and handling. 4 20mm cannons and 4 machine guns gave devastating firepower. The wooden construction made it fast but fragile. A single hit from German anti-aircraft fire could cause catastrophic failure. Despite this vulnerability, Mosquito squadrons with American crews scored dozens of kills over Germany in early 1945. De Havilland Mosquito NF Mark 30. The ultimate night fighter Mosquito arrived in American hands just as the war ended in Europe. The Mark 30 featured the most advanced radar available and engines optimized for high-altitude interception. American crews praised the improved radar that could track targets at ranges exceeding 5 miles, even in heavy weather. What set this variant apart was electronic warfare capability. It carried equipment to detect German radar emissions, allowing crews to hunt enemy night fighters by tracking their own radar signals. Though few American squadrons flew the Mark 30 in combat before Germany surrendered, those who did considered it the finest night fighter they had ever flown. The Mosquito influenced American jet night fighter designs for years after the war. Finally, we have experimental and specialized night fighters. Lockheed XP-58 Chain Lightning. Lockheed tried building a superfighter by scaling up the successful P-38 Lightning into a massive twin-engine monster. The XP-58 Chain Lightning was enormous, weighing over 39,000 pounds fully loaded, nearly twice the weight of a standard Lightning. The original concept called for a high-altitude interceptor, but the design changed repeatedly as the war progressed. By the time the first prototype flew in 1944, the military wanted night fighters instead. Engineers installed radar equipment and redesigned the nose to accommodate a radar operator. The aircraft was supposed to carry 4 37mm cannons, the heaviest guns ever planned for an American fighter. In practice, the XP-58 was a disaster. It barely reached 380 miles per hour, despite 2 massive engines. Only one prototype was completed. It never saw combat and was eventually scrapped. North American F-82 Twin Mustang night fighter variants. The military wanted a long-range escort fighter that could accompany B-29s on missions lasting 8 or 10 hours. North American's solution was radical. They took 2 P-51 Mustang fuselages, connected them with a central wing section, and created the Twin Mustang. 2 pilots could share flying duties on ultra-long missions. The F-22E night fighter version moved the radar operator to the right fuselage, installing SCR-720 radar in a large pod under the center wing. 6 50 caliber machine guns remained in the center section. The Twin Mustang arrived too late for World War II, with production models not reaching squadrons until 1946. However, it went on to score the first air-to-air kills of the Korean War when F-22s shot down North Korean aircraft in the opening days of that conflict. Northrop XP-79. Northrop's flying wing night fighter was one of the strangest aircraft ever designed. The XP-79 was a
jet-powered flying wing made from magnesium alloy and designed for ramming attacks. The theory was that the pilot would use heavily reinforced wing leading edges to slice through enemy bomber tails, destroying them without firing a shot. The pilot lay prone in the cockpit on his stomach, supposedly better able to withstand the forces of violent maneuvers and ramming impacts. 4 50 caliber machine guns were installed as backup weapons.
The entire concept was insane. The XP-79 crashed on its first flight in 1945, killing the test pilot when the aircraft entered an uncontrollable spin. The crash ended the program immediately. The XP-79 remains a bizarre footnote in aviation history. Douglas XA-26A Night Intruder. Douglas took their excellent A-26 Invader light bomber and tried converting it into a specialized night intruder aircraft. The XA-26A featured a solid nose packed with radar equipment and 6 50-caliber machine guns, replacing the glazed bombardier nose. The concept was to prowl over German territory at night, using radar to locate trains, vehicle convoys, and airfields, then attacking with machine guns and bombs. Douglas built only one XA-26A prototype for testing. The aircraft performed well during trials, but the military decided the standard A-26 Invader could already perform night intruder missions without special modifications, and the P-61 Black Widow handled dedicated night fighting better. The program was canceled, with just the single prototype completed.